Hi friends. Free your grips by harmonizing chord scales. What is that? Well, let's dig into it. So the intention of this video is to offer a way to expand your harmonic vocabulary and hopefully give you some ideas, whether it's for improvisation or composition, to really get some more colors and movement in your harmonic understanding and to master the fingerboard. This is a great exercise, or not just an exercise. This is, for me, something I use quite a lot, and I've found it's very helpful to inspire some new ideas, get some new colors, and to really, master the fingerboard. So, what is this thing? Well, it's really a different thought process. It's not building chords the way we normally do, which is typically in thirds, and you learn your different chord voicings and your inversions and all of these things. And then when it comes time to play a chord, you say, oh, I got to play an A flat major 7 chord. Well, I look for my A flat and I play this shape. Well, that's all well and good, but that's what I'm calling a grip, right? We have a grip. Our hand goes a certain way, and that's a major 7th chord or a minor, whatever it happens to be. This is thinking completely different. It's not that at all. It's looking at the notes moving up and down the fingerboard and being able to lay out the chord scale with some intervallic structure. So let me explain in a little bit more detail. I'm going to take a simple example like the key of C. We're talking about the notes of the C major scale. I'm not thinking in terms of a chord name, although it could be C major 7 or any of its relatives like D Dorian or E Phrygian or any of the relative modes. And by the way, I do have a video called Modes from Bright to Dark, which is kind of related to this concept, and I'll link it in the description. That's more about single notes, and this is kind of exploring a similar idea harmonically. So in a way, so it'll make more sense when I get through it. So this example is in the key of C, and I'm going to take an interval structure. I'm going to keep it fairly simple and use just 3 strings, 3-note voicings rather than these 4 and more 4 and 5 note voicings, which are harder to play on guitar. So we'll keep it simple. 3-note voicings. I'm going to keep it on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. And what I want to do is just come up with an interval structure that I like the sound of that's diatonic to that key, that's not thirds. So for example, I'm going to start with the note G on the 4th string and go up a second, a major second to I'm going to go up a second to whatever is in that key, and if this is the key of G, the next note is A. So I have a G and an A, and then I'm going to go up a 5th. So from A, I go up to E. So this is my voicing, G, A, and E. I don't care what it is in relation to the chord. There is no chord yet. It's just an interval structure, a second followed by a 4th. And then I'm simply going to move this structure diatonically up the fingerboard. So I'm going to move the G to an A, move the A to a B, and move the E to an F, and my second voicing is this. Right? So I get my first one, my second one. If I continue this idea, I get this. So you can hear semblances of a C major tonality in there, but with these different intervals, it's not quite as obvious as, say, chords and thirds are. So this is sort of the concept that I played at the beginning, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But what I really like to do, just for my own way to expand on this idea, is to take a couple of different versions of this idea. So we just did seconds and fifths, right, and harmonize the scale that way, and that's cool. Another option for this might be to use a different interval set. So just for this example, I'm going to use a 4th on the bottom followed by a 2nd on top. So if my lowest note here is an E, I go up a 4th, I get A, I go up a 2nd, I get B. So E, A, and B on those 3 strings. and then I move each note up to its next counterpart in the key of key of C. I get F, B, and C. Nice unusual sound potentially there. I keep going. I get this. I get this. This one's really cool. So these are pretty modern sounds, right? So I'm not really thinking about chords in the traditional sense, like a given chord symbol and you stack up your thirds. I'm thinking more of a chord scale, like so if we had an example of D Dorian or something. So I'm thinking of all the notes in that mode and choosing this interval structure and moving them through that mode, whatever it happens to be. So that's the basic idea, and I find this very, very useful. Get a lot of miles out of it. So the thing that I'd like to stress here is, yeah, it takes a little while to learn the shapes going up and down the neck, but you really want to play this thing musically. You want to practice it musically. It's not really about just play these chords and go, okay, I can play those chords. It's like move around, right? Make some music with them. So that's what I did at the beginning. I chose randomly a couple modes. I said, well, I'll start with a brightish sounding mode using an E, my open E as a pedal. So I chose E mixolydian. I said, well, what are all my possible notes in E mixolydian using this idea first of seconds and fifths that we just talked about earlier. So these are my seconds and fifths in E mixolydian going up the fingerboard. But I want to play it musically. I've got my low E and my open E on top, and I don't have to play them in order. Right? You can jump around, play melodies. And then I moved up those voicings until I got to the top, an octave higher, and then descending, I switched to a darker mode. I happened to choose E Phrygian. Now I've got this sound. So play with it, right? You want to make some real music. Use this not as only as an opportunity to learn what the notes are on the fingerboard, but hopefully it inspires you to create some new sounds and get into some new territory that you haven't explored before. So check it out and hope you find it useful.